Hey Lucas, remember that 9-unit apartment complex we bought and there was like homeless people living in there and a person died in it?
Yes, actually it was 2 people that died in it.
All right, we're gonna talk about that. If you missed that first part, I was asking Lucas if he remembers the 9-unit apartment complex that we bought a few years ago without using any of our own money, but there were some homeless people living in it, some people that were addicted to drugs were living in it, and unfortunately, in the first few months after we ended up purchasing it, a couple people passed away. When you've been a landlord long enough, unfortunately, those type of things happen. You own houses that people live in, and life happens, and crazy things happen, and sometimes people pass away, and it's no fun to deal with. That's the bad stuff. Now let's talk about the good stuff and how we turned the property around, haven't had any issues since then, and also go over the numbers and how we were able to buy this without using any of our own money. Before I go over our purchase numbers and how we bought it without using any of our own money, let me describe the building to you. So it's a 2-story building in Frenchtown, downtown St. Charles. It's in kind of a little bit of a rougher area, or was a little bit of a rougher area, but an up and coming area. So unknowingly, we kind of bought it right on the fringe of rough, but it got really nice. The area got pretty nice over the past few years. We bought the property in 2016. It's got 3 units on the first floor and 6 on the second floor. The second floor has 6 residential studio apartments. Downstairs has 2 commercial units on the front side of the building, and the back side actually has one bedroom apartment complex. So it's a pretty small building, but it was our first multifamily, and overall we're really happy with it. Now let's go over the initial numbers and show you how I was able to buy it and how I kind of worked the creative financing to not use any of my own money. As I said, we bought it in 2016. We purchased it for $255,000, which seems like a steal now, and it kind of was, but as I kind of alluded to earlier, the property was in okay shape. It's smaller, so we didn't have to put a ton of money in it to make it nicer, but there was homeless people sleeping in, some of their friends' bedrooms, and that first floor, as I talked about, there was that 1 bedroom. I remember walking through that, and there was 3 or 4 people in sleeping bags on the floor, which should be a red flag, but being young and dumb, we didn't care. We just bought it anyway. And since then, the few months after that, there were people sleeping in the laundry room, all that kind of stuff. So it was a up and coming area, but definitely a rougher tenant base. So we bought it for $255,000. That was part of the reason, because it had those issues, and we had to put 25% down. This was our first multifamily property. Now we put 15 or 20% down, but on our very first one, we had to put 25% down. So 25% of $255,000 is right about $64,000. That's what we needed to put down on the property. And I don't remember fully, since this was 6 years ago, but I don't think we even had the money in our personal savings or checking account or in the business checking or savings account. So what we did was we partnered with our private lender, Steve. What he did was he gave us the 25% down payment, or $64,000, and we made him a 25% partner. So Lucas and I each own the other 75%, or 37.5% each, and Steve owned 25% of the property. We put him on the LLC, and he owned a part of the property just for putting money down. Now, he was part owner, but he did not have to take part in any of the managing himself. He was a silent partner that gave us 25% down, and then therefore got 25% of the actual net income that the property produced every month, if it produced net income. Let's talk about how we were able to get him his money back without spending any of ours. Before I go over the numbers on how we were able to get Steve his money back, let's talk about 3 quick lessons learned that I learned on this apartment complex deal. Number 1 is buy the property right. A lot of things can happen. You can screw it up after the fact. You can screw up a rehab, or you can take longer to rehab, or you can even, not get tenants in place right away. There's a lot of things you can do after the fact to screw it up, and you will, and I did, and I continue to do that. However, if you buy the property right, if you do your due diligence and you don't get too emotional and you stick to the numbers and you buy it where you need to be, no matter if it's, $5,000 under asking or $150,000 under asking, it makes all the difference in the world, because we definitely didn't do everything perfectly. We definitely didn't do everything efficiently. We didn't do it perfect, but we bought it right and we figured it out. And I think that's extremely important to you and people watching. I get a lot of comments on analysis paralysis, and I want to wait, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want everything to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect, ever, especially not on your first few deals. So don't wait for it to be perfect. Just buy it where you're comfortable and you will figure it out, I promise. Lesson number 2 is the power of real estate and time combined. Real estate goes up in value over time, and if you have a property that's rented and you have a mortgage on that property, the tenants pay down that mortgage with the rent. So over time, those two numbers can be extremely powerful. I think of those lessons in those stupid freaking algebra, I think it was, questions growing up in high school or college, I don't even remember, but one of those questions where if you're at a point and a train goes this way, how far is it away? But if another train goes the other direction, how much further that gets, if that makes sense, kind of a rough analogy, but just showing you that if two forces going the opposite direction working in your favor can accomplish a lot. When I show you the numbers, you're going to see exactly what I mean. What happened from 2016 when we bought it to 2020 when we refinanced, and then even what's happened in the past couple years. Real estate and time are great together if you know what you're doing. The third lesson that we kind of learned and stumbled across in is doing long-term BRRRR deal. Most of you hopefully know about the buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and scale method. If you don't, check out this video above where I walk through a case study of a house before and after and walk you through that, well, at the time BRRRR process, but now I've changed it to BRRRR's process. But taking that process of buying, rehabbing, renting, refinancing, and scaling with a house and expanding that over a few years with an apartment complex was new to us. We didn't know, we just kind of stumbled upon it and figured it out as we went. But since this 9 unit, we bought a 12 unit, a 27 unit, a 29 unit, a 32 unit, and a 19 unit, all without using any of our own money with this extended long-term BRRRR process. All right, let's flash forward 4 years to 2020 and talk about how we were able to get our money back and do the refinance part of that long-term BRRRR method. So what we did was we got the property reappraised or revalued at the current market price. And as I said, we did minor repairs as people moved out. They were studio apartments. They just didn't have the best tenant base, not necessarily in horrible shape. We used cash flow that we got from the property to fix them up over the 4 years as people left and raised rent a little bit and, did it that way so we didn't have to come out of pocket with the actual repairs. So it appraised for $450,000, kind of talking a little bit about that time and real estate working together. When I show you what it's appraised for now, what it's worth now in 2022, it's going to be even higher. So what we did was we took that $450,000 new appraised value and did an 80% loan. We got an 80% new loan of $360,000, which is 80% of that $450,000. So that was a new loan that we had. So we basically, for simplicity's sake, they handed us a check for $360,000, which was a mortgage. Now, we still do owe our private lender and the old loan back, so let's talk about that. So they handed us a check for $360,000. We owed $150,000 on that original mortgage. We put 20% down on that $255,000 minus, paying that mortgage down over 4 years, got us to about $150,000. So we still owed $150,000. So we paid that mortgage off, then minus $90,000. That was our private lender getting 8% return on his money over those 4 years, that $64,000 that he put down. As I said earlier, we also gave him 25% of whatever profit we made, if we made profit, as we were turning the properties. So that gave us $120,000. We were able to pay back our initial mortgage. We're able to pay back our private lender $64,000 plus 8% return yearly, which is about $90,000. So he's paid off, which is our entire goal, to own this 100% ourselves without using any of our own money, which we did. He was paid off. He made decent money, 10% return on his money, and we were actually able to get $120,000 of tax-free money on that refinance. We could have kept it in the deal if we wanted and refinanced at less than 80%, but we wanted to have that cash for reserves to pay taxes and all those things with. Hammering down the point of time and real estate working together if you're managing them properly. As of today, in 2022, the value of the property has exploded because we're collecting consistent rent every single month, which increases the value of multifamilies. Plus that area, not to get too technical, cap rate has gone down because the area has improved. So timing and everything worked out really well. Luckily, I could say, I guess maybe for us. So look at the difference in the two. We have $205,000 of equity even after that refinance and paying everybody off. So we have a good amount of equity in the property, which we could tap into with home equity lines of credit or another refinance if we wanted to, but we don't want to over leverage ourselves, so we won't do that. And also we cash flow about $1,500 net net positive every single month. The beautiful thing about real estate is if you do things the right way, you don't have to be perfect to make a lot of money. As you can see on this deal, we did very, very well, and we didn't have to use any of our own money, and we didn't really do it super efficiently the entire time. The fact that we bought it right, the fact that time took over, and the fact that we discovered this BRRRR process extended turned into a really, really good deal for us, and this set the table for a lot of other deals. I don't want you to get discouraged if your first few deals don't go perfectly. While this one went really, really well, it did not go perfectly. As long as you do okay and don't lose a ton of money, or you might make money like we did, but you learn lessons all along the way. That's what this all is about. You don't have to have every deal be perfect. This is a shining example of that worked out really, really well for us. I love this deal. It kind of set the table for a lot of things. If you've learned a little bit in this video, I would appreciate you very, very much giving this video a like and subscribing if you have not. My whole goal is to provide a ton of really, really good information for you to help you create wealth and control your future using real estate. See you on the next one.